Hello, I'm Eric Armour. Tonight I'm interviewing Ken Harlow, who for 44 years has been a resident of Nelson. And in the 1940s, Ken was a conductor and motorman on the streetcar system that ran in Nelson. Ken, I was wondering if you could tell me a few things about the streetcar, a description of the car itself, the three cars that ran.
There were electric affair run by the city power plant, trolley, overhead trolley, and there were the streetcars run by 4 electric motors, 500 horsepower motors. There are 4 of them, and they run in series, the front and the rear, and they would haul approximately about, well, we've had as many as about 60 passengers, I guess, on the streetcars in the Sundays in the afternoon, going down to the city parks in Nelson. We've had that many go down there.
Right.
And the same amount that late in the evenings that people that went back home, and that was around the same amount of people. It was full of people from the park going home. And it was around
Lakeside?
Yeah, Lakeside Park. Around 50, 60, 70 people, something like that. They were even standing in the aisle as far as that goes.
Right. What were the interiors like on these cars?
Well, these cars were laminated oak. The back seats and the seats itself were, there was no plush or upholstery, fancy upholstery or anything like that. There were lacquered slats, the back part, and the seat itself. And they would tip. You could tip the bottom up, and that sort of thing, to clean or anything like that. That's all I can give you the description of the seats. That's what the way they were, and the electric heaters were under the seats there.
Right. Now, car 23 had a coal heater, or was it?
No, electric.
Electric. They were all
Electric.
three cars. Right?
They were electric when I was on there. I was on there about 2 years. The last 2 years they were operating.
1947 to 1949.
Yeah.
That's right.
Right up to the last. Yeah.
Of the 3 cars, which car do you think was about the most comfortable to have driven, or which one did you like the most?
As far as the operating end of it, I would prefer the number 23 myself. As far as the operating, the others were okay too. But as far as the smooth operating one, it was no number 23 car, because I've operated the whole 3 of them myself.
That's 23.
Switched on all of them.
Right.
I was spare quite a bit of the time. I was spare.
What was so special about car 23?
Well, it's just that the controller was a little more smoother to operate. It wasn't sticky on the control fingers on the controller. Yeah, it's all control, like the.
Right.
You know what I mean by that.
Did 20? I understand 23 would only go one way. 21 and 22 went.
Yeah, well, a reversed controller.
Right.
Just reverse the handles and switch. That's just reverse handles. That's all.
That was.
The controller was on the back as well as on the front, but it had to be thrown out in off position. Then you just take the handle and you can throw it back on again.
Up at the other end of the car.
Up at the other end of the car.
But 23, you couldn't do that because it was just one way.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Right.
And they had the breaker. 21 and 22 had a breaker at each end too, because you have to have a breaker for the current.
Oh, right. So if the
voltage
trolley
pole,
right?
Trolley pole.
Right. I see.
Yeah.
And then what was the outside made out of? I understand 23 was made out of.
Sort of. I guess sort of
oak veneer?
One by, well, painted, you know, a reddish color, and 1 by 4 stripping shiplap material, I guess.
Right.
Upright position, they were together, like as you see today. I guess it's the same idea.
Right.
Yeah.
And it was an oak veneer, or?
I think so. I don't know.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you exactly because I wasn't going to test the wood or anything like that.
That's right. Your job was just to drive.
Yeah.
About in driving, you've mentioned that you've talked of the Stanley Street was quite a difficult place to.
Yeah, well, all along Stanley Street, from Inner Street down, it had maple trees. All these maple trees at that time. They come down Stanley Street, and then we swung around Robson and come down Kootenai, and then we swung on Hall's Mine Road. Well, then from there on down, it was maple trees again. Well, I don't know, a couple 100 feet apart, something like that. It was terrible for a lot of maple trees, and then they would shed their leaves in the fall of the year. Well, at a certain time, it was quite bad for a while, and then if it got a little rain, it was just like axle grease.
Right.
And they had a couple of runaways. It was not account of the streetcars, it was account of the greasy rails with that first rain.
Right.
After the first rain, and then leaves would they'd be slippery, but they would squash out.
Right.
And then the track would be good. After the first couple runs over it, it was all right again. But it was really greasy. Well, they had to get a little bit of, on the curves, we had 2 sand pockets, one in each corner.
Of the carriage.
On the streetcars, all of them, they carried these here sand reservoir pockets. Had to fill them up with dry sand. Then they was pushed out by air valve. And when you went around the curve, the spout would miss the rail, so you had to get out with a bucket and sand the curve.
The curves.
Because otherwise, if you used the air bucket, it wouldn't
spray
do
off.
any good. It would spray out on the road instead of on the track. That's the way it was. Already on the straightaway, you could do that because
Right.
it would drop on the rails,
Right.
steel rails.
What would you do if the car did go into a slide on Stanley or
Well,
on...
you had to use the series controller and get the front wheel turning, the front axle turning, and the rear one turning. That's the series. You get them turning, and pull you, and then you release. You're taking a certain amount of air. You don't take in too much, otherwise you come to a sudden halt. So you take in so much, you have to feel the amount of air that went into your cylinders, and let the air out gradual. And then you drop a little bit of sand. Then you apply take in a little more air again, and come to a gradual stop. Otherwise, if you shove your control lever over, you could throw the people right out of the seats.
Wow.
Sure. If you throw the lever right over, it's like one of these steam locomotives, train locomotives, on the same principle.
Air brakes.
Air brake system on
Right.
them.
They
They had the tank. They had an air tank underneath them, between the front trucks and the rear end trucks.
Right.
You had a storage tank. It held about 120 pounds of air.
Right. Right. Well, what were the sort of fare system they had on the streetcar?
Well, the fare system, when I started on in spring of 47, 1st of March, it was 6 tickets for a quarter at that time for adults, or a straight 10-cent fare. And the student tickets for the children going to school, and that was 8 tickets for a quarter, or 5 cents fare. There was no tickets. That's what the fare was at that time. That was like that till about 48, I think it was, and then they raised the fare. They dropped down the tickets from 6 to 4 tickets for a quarter.
For adults?
Yeah.
Right.
That's right. And still 10-cent fare.
Wow.
That's
That
right.
was all controlled, the fares were all controlled by the city. That
By
was
the city hall, yeah.
part of their...
Yeah.
Do you think that this is one of the reasons why the system didn't survive so well, because the fares were so low?
Well, I don't know really. They just had it in the mind at that time. They just wanted to do away with the streetcars and get a new up-to-date transportation system. I guess they thought gas buses would be better, which I don't know. And Les Hall, he was the superintendent for the city of the streetcar railway system, and the city department, they sent Les to Calgary to study the transit system in Calgary.
Right.
And they also sent him up to, I believe, to Edmonton too, as far as I know. And he was advocating all the time that he thought the only thing for Nelson would be trolley buses.
Right.
Or one-man operated streetcars or trolley buses. That's what he was after. But no, the city fathers at that time, they didn't seem to go for it. They was all gas buses.
Right.
So they brought over the gas buses from Trail. They give them the franchise to run it for a year over here. So they run it a year. They see they couldn't make no money. I guess there's no profit made, no money. So they took the buses out of here and they went over to Trail.
Mm-hmm.
So then the city of Nelson went to Vancouver and got, I believe, one or two obsoleted BC Electric buses from Vancouver, and they started from there. And then they bought one or two of them they sent Les Hall to Oshawa, Ontario, and brought a brand new, I believe it was 80-passenger bus from Oshawa, Ontario.
Right.
And then a year or two after, they went and got another one and built the fleet up from that.
Right. There's a lot of romanticism around the streetcar system. People love the system a lot.
Oh yeah, the people they liked it. They tourists they went to, they enjoyed the streetcars. A lot of them that had their cars and that they left their cars and then they wanted to ride the streetcars. Oh yeah, that was quite a novelty, the streetcars. Oh yeah.
Well, it was the first one for miles inside the
they,
interior.
They forgot about their cars and used to run around the town with the streetcars. Oh yeah, they quite enjoyed the streetcars. Oh yeah. It was quite a thing, you know. Nelson is the only one around here at that time outside of Lethbridge and Calgary and Vancouver that had the street railway system.
Right. Actually, one of the first ones in...
And Nelson had their own power. They had their own... They didn't have to buy gasoline or oils or anything like that. They had their own generating plant here to generate their own power. That didn't cost them anything for gas.
At Bonington Falls.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, sure.
Well, I want to thank you, Ken, for this evening, for coming down and talking a little about the system.
Yeah, oh, that's fine. I'm enjoying it myself.
Thank you very much.
But I can give you more on it if you want.
Okay.
I don't know if I can give you too much more on it.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
I guess that's all you want.
Hello, my name is Eric Armour. Tonight I'm interviewing Austin Moore, who is a resident of Nelson for the past 58 years. Austin was a conductor and motorman on the streetcar system between 1943 and 45. Austin, when you were working with the system, what was your overall impression of the services and the sort of...
Well, I thought it was very good, and I liked very much working with electricity. It was very smooth, much better than buses. You know, every wheel on that streetcar was a driver. So when you got started off, we had no problems at all. Yeah.
And they provided a lot of services to the people who rode the system.
Yes, it sure did. It was well accepted, and I think a lot of the people, you know, the older people were sorry to see it disappear there when they turned over to the buses. But we had our experience, quite an experience when we were driving, especially in the winter time there. What I liked about the streetcars there, we could be going up the hill there and maybe plowing 2 feet of snow in front. So we'd go until we'd piled up and we would stop, so we'd back up and then we'd take a run at it. So we'd blast her out of there, carry on up there. With a truck or anything like that, you couldn't do that. But then if it got too bad, they brought out the sweeper. You know, they had a sweeper, and Les Hall and Jack Robinson was the ones that run this here sweeper. And the only problem was in the winter time, they never plowed the streets. So the cars, in order to get up the hill, they would take to the streetcar track. And with running in there, they would pad the snow down there, and first thing you know, you were run right up on the snow.
Right.
So you were stopped. So we'd have to get the men out and dig this snow out, and that was the only problem in the wintertime. There was people using the streetcar track to get up the hill.
Yeah. Now the streetcar, if I understand, stopped anywhere that the passengers wanted it to.
Yes, we tried to oblige everybody there. We would, like if we had somebody on at night, maybe on the 12 o'clock run, and we knew they lived in the middle of the block, we would try and stop right there in front of their house and let them out and go in. But lots of times, you know, we'd be coming up Nelson Avenue there, and there was one party especially, she wouldn't start to go out for to catch the streetcar until she saw us coming up the track, and then we'd get halfway down, and the conductor, he would signal for me to stop and wait till this lady caught up there. So she was told finally that if she did that too often, that she'd be left behind for the next streetcar. But when they brought in, we used to carry, we could carry maybe 1 or 2 baby buggies on the front of the streetcar, on what they call the cow catcher.
Right.
And but then they put one on the back, and they said, well, they'd take on all baby buggies. Well, the funny part of that was that the first one on, when we got up the hill, would be the first one that wanted off, and here we'd have to move about 4 or 5 baby buggies out there to get this one out. Some of the people was annoyed about it, but this is the services they give when the streetcar was there, and a lot of the people, they really appreciated it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But what amazed the people was up there, we had a little platform up at the top of for them to get on and off, and this platform was only about 4 by 6. And you know, we'd pull right up there, the motorman way up at the front of the car, we'd pull right up there and stop right there. Well, the people couldn't figure out how we did that, you know. We were up there and how we could stop
In such a
like
small
that.
spot.
But the idea of that was when you were starting out to learn, you took a mark, you know, off on the side, so that you'd line right up with that mark. When you came up, you'd plug her and stop it there. But I had quite an experience one day when I was coming down Stanley Street. The worst part on the streetcars was if it was a very dry weather,
Right.
and then we got a little shower. Well, that rail was just as slippery as if it had been greased.
Right.
And I was coming down Stanley Street, and a lady wanted off in Mill Street, so I was working it down there, breaking down there. And she got down on the step, and just as I plugged it, the streetcar went off, it went down there. And before I got it stopped, we were down 1.5 blocks. Well, you know, anything like that, your old heart came up in your throat there. But luck would have it, she didn't jump off. And see, when you go into a skid like that, you've got to get the brakes off, and you've got to get the sand and get the wheels turning before you can stop. And another time I was coming down right after it was 12:30, and we were coming down by the old Presbyterian church there, and there was a little LaPointe girl came running out onto the street, and one of the men that worked on the track, he says, "Oh, she won't run across there, she won't run across." So anyway, I slowed down, but boy, I saw she wasn't going to stop, and I plugged her, and I went into a skid, and the only thing that saved her was that when the wheels were skidded, it pushed her off the rail, right into the middle of the tracks, and by the time I got her stopped, she was right in between 4 wheels, right in there. Well, by golly, we had visions of this and that and everything, and anyway, we coaxed her out of there and got her out of there and took her up to the hospital. All she had was a little bruise, and
Oh, she was lucky. She slid right under.
well, she sure was. She could have been lost an arm or a leg or got run right over there, but another time when I was just new on that streetcar, we were going out. 2 streetcars went to Fairview on the school run. See, so we had a passing switch down on Front Street there, but nobody told me that when I was coming in there, I should slow up. So the other streetcar was ahead, and I came tearing along there and hit that switch wide open, and all of a sudden, the back wheels, they took into the switch on the side there. Well, here we were crossways. And, of course, the motorman, or the conductor, he didn't know anything about how to get it back, and I didn't, so we had to phone Les all. And he came down, and all he done was took the controller off and put it on the other end and threw it into reverse, and streetcar run back on the track. Well, we felt kind of stupid about that, but I think some of the kids that morning was late for school.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Well,
yeah, and then Halloween night, that was the time the kids had a ball on there. They would reach up and pull the line down. Well, then you get out there in the dark and trying to find that line.
Didn't they also put outhouses out on Cedar Street?
Pardon?
Didn't they used to put also these outhouses, put boxes out onto the road on Cedar Street?
Well, they eventually had to put cutouts on Cedar Street there, because one day the streetcar came up there and the men were working on the track, and of course the conductor got out to go up and see what they were doing, and all of a sudden he looked and the streetcar was running back. Well, it run down there, and I think it piled up down on Carbonate Street there, but those are things that happened, and I think what they did, they finally put a cutout on there.
That's right,
Yeah.
safety switches.
But another thing the kids used to do, they used to go to the CPR and get these here torpedoes they put on the track, you know. Well, by golly, you'd be going along there at night, and if we'd run over one of them, it'd go bang. Well, everybody in the streetcar, it even
Lifted
bumped
them
the
up.
streetcar up, and they thought the whole thing had blown up. Oh, we had our fun. Yeah.
Oh, that's great.
We had a good gang to work with. I don't think there was any problems with any of the men.
Very few injuries to passengers on the history of the system. Very few injuries to the passengers that traveled on the system.
I don't think there was any injuries to. I can't recall anybody getting hurt, you know.
Yeah,
But the whole trouble was on Baker Street there, you know, when you give the signal to go ahead, and then somebody tried to jump on the streetcar. Well, one instance there, Mr. Maury, I'd give the signal to go, and then when he jumped on the streetcar, I give the signal to stop, and the motor went bang like that, and Maury got on the streetcar. And of course, when he stopped like that, here he goes staggering down the aisle, and of course, I says, drunk again. Well, that was the wrong thing to say to Mr. Maury, because he never ever drank. He didn't think it was funny.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you very much, Austin, for sharing some experiences with your time with the system.
It was my pleasure.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you. And I think you're a fine bunch of fellows here.
Thank you. This is Eric Armour saying so long. I'm here with Wilfred Hall, whose longtime involvement in the streetcar system with his family is quite well known. Will you tell me about how much your family has been involved in the system? I understand your father and your brother were both involved in it quite a long time.
Yes, they were, right from the beginning. Maybe first I should say that Dad came from Nanaimo. He'd been in a mine explosion there, and he was badly injured, and after he got through with that, he'd gone up north. He came through the boundary country and then finally came to Nelson. And he'd been injured on the hips in the mine disaster, so he couldn't do any heavy labor work. But he did get a job at the smelter. The Hall Mine smelter was running then. And he tried to get in at the mine up on the top of the mountain, but they didn't have any vacancies. But when he did apply at the smelter, they were short-handed, and they put him on a 16-hour shift. And he worked there from 1897, when he arrived in Nelson, until about 7 years, until just before the smelter closed down. And the first streetcars had come in 1899, and he was so badly crippled with and leaded at the smelter that he wanted to get a lighter job. So he applied on the first set of streetcars they had, and he got on there in, let's see, about 1904, and he worked till 1908.
When they had
on
the
the big
carbarn,
fire.
The fire, right?
Yeah,
Substation fire.
yeah. So he got on as motorman, and he worked as motorman. Not so much conductor, because the conductor in those days was the back of the car, and he had a portable fare box, and he walked up the aisle and collected fares. And as motorman, he stayed in the front and was
driving the car.
Driving the car, less like leg activity, you see. And then, of course, from the time I was born in 1905, and that's 80 years ago, and by the time I knew anything, it was streetcars, because when Dad came home, there was always talk about the streetcars and what had gone on and whether it derailed or various problems, and so it's part of the family life from then on.
So talked about it at the table.
Oh, table, yes. And we had to deliver his lunch up. And when he came down in the street, they stopped at Stanley Street corner for 15 minutes. And we used to take turns, my brother and I, taking his lunch up. And of course, while he was eating his lunch, he usually had a little bit of lunch for us too. And then he'd say, well, you better look around, see if you can find any money or anything loose in the car. So we'd go up and down and look in the back alleyway. Oh, nearly always found one of the little nickels or something, you know.
Right.
But afterwards, I thought he'd planted a few of those just to keep us happy.
Well, Les was superintendent from 1924, was it?
Yeah, 24 to 32.
Right. That was your father.
Yeah.
Right. And then your brother,
My brother
Les.
took over, in 1932 to 49 when it was closed down.
Right.
Yeah.
So. And also I hear that it was Les's sort of ingenuity that kept the system going.
Yes, he was very mechanical minded, so was my dad. And when the Alice Chalmers company that provided all the motors and so on for the streetcars, they shut down production in 1914 because they turned over to war work, you see. And so from then on, they had to scrounge for parts. Anything that broke had to be manufactured here locally. The Nelson Iron Works and various machine shops, they all get in on the thing. And besides their own ingenuity of welding things together and making do, and from 1914 to 1949, it was
Had to be
make
sort of
do.
a wizard with parts, I'm sure.
Yeah, that was it. And
Most of that work was done up at the car barns, wasn't it?
yeah, the car barns. And
Whereabouts was that?
On Hoover and Hall Mines Road.
Right.
Where the Tip Top service is now.
Yeah, that's right.
And
It was a corrugated iron structure?
yes, it was not lined. It was just the studding and the sheet iron on the outside. And a very cold place to work in the wintertime. You had to wear all your outside clothes.
Oh, I see.
There was no heat.
There was room for 2 cars, and then...
There was room for 2 cars. Well, practically 2 cars end to end on one track, and there was 2 tracks. And on the other, they had the sweeper, and they had a work flat car and things like that.
this is where Les, your brother, used to work as a... counting the cash at the end of the day, and...
Oh, well, no, he didn't. He wasn't on that. The cash all went to the City Hall. They looked after the cash. No, it was all the mechanical work.
Now, as a young boy, you were at the scene of an accident in the late 19...
Well, we never did pin the date down. I thought it was around 1919. When I heard of the accident, of course, we always got the first news. There was no telephones, but we got the news that it had been an accident. So I grabbed my sister's camera. She had an antique camera there, very, very valuable. We got it at Eaton's for $9. And anyway, it did have film in, luckily, or I'd never got those pictures. And I dashed down to the car barns. And of course, the car was sticking out through the front of the car, sticking out through the back of the barn. So I took pictures of that. And what had happened, the poor old man that was had to do the filing of the contacts in the controllers, they would arc and burn so that they got blackened up. So he'd take the control box apart and he'd sandpaper these things down. And the trolley hadn't been taken off, the overhead wire. And so when he pulled the control, it started off slowly, and the sweeper happened to be in front of it. And it just pushed the sweeper out right through the wall, and it went down 30 feet, landed upside down and flattened right out. And of course the streetcar kept on going until the front truck dropped off the track, and it stopped. And the poor old man, he didn't know what was happening because he was sitting down nearly on the floor on a little soapbox working on the controller. He could have got electrocuted because of all these brass contacts right in front of him, 500 volts of energy right there.
Right.
So he staggered back out of the car, and that was a shock for him. But they pulled the car back in, and they scraped up what was left of the sweeper and rebuilt it.
Rebuilt it.
Yeah.
And you yourself were involved in the system as a young boy?
Yes. Frank Ingram was the superintendent then, but I was free and I was sort of looking for work, and he hired me as a grease monkey.
What was your job as a grease monkey?
Well, it was a little bit of everything. Whenever there was a job to be done in the car barn. I remember one job I didn't like. We had to pack clay from the old smelter site. A bucket of clay. You had to walk all the way over there and pack a bucket of clay back. And that was to seal. And we made our own bearings for the streetcar, you see, and you had to pour Babbitt into a holder, and you had to pack it with clay. And this was one of the jobs. But anyway, all the different tasks were painting and upholstering wicker seats and varnishing and repairing sweeper brushes, the bamboo brushes they had to rebuild.
The kids used to collect these on the street.
They collected them, and they made good use of them too, apparently. I was told the other day that one of them made shin pads when they were playing hockey. They fastened all these strips of bamboo together and wrapped them around their legs so they didn't get hurt with a puck. Yeah.
You must tell me there was an incident I read about once was during Halloween.
Yes, it was a Halloween night, and poor Mr. Freed was the motorman. And he was coming down Stanley Street with a car towards the corner of Observatory, and as the car swung the corner there, the headlight of the car swung around, and he saw this man standing waiting to get on the rear of the car. And of course, he would go past him, but just as he got to him, this man fell right across the track in front of the car, and of course, the car went over him with a crunch, you know, and poor Mr. Freed, it's wonder he didn't have a heart attack, but him and the conductor got out and ran underneath and grabbed this man by the legs and pulled him out from under the car, expecting to be blood everywhere. And they found out that the legs were wooden sticks and the man was a dummy. The kids had got a hold of a dummy, made a dummy, and put a mask, a very lifelike mask on it, and a hat. And they had the dummy leaning towards the track and a string back, and they hid behind the telephone pole. And as the car came around the corner, they let the string go, and the man fell right on the track, and they thought sure they'd run over him.
Right. Well, now that also you told me that Cedar Street used to be streetcar system. Not only was it a thrill around Halloween, but also
Well, that was a thrill in the winter, actually, not the summertime. In the winter, because the ice would pack on the rails. Even with the sweeper running, the ice would form. And as it went up Cedar Street, it couldn't get a grip on the rails, and it would start to slide back. And of course, the motors were overloaded, and the big circuit breaker, which was up in the front of the cab, would snap out with a great report, and the big blue flame all over the car. And the lights would go out, and of course, all the passengers sitting there were startled, and the motorman would throw it right back in to keep the car from running backwards. They'd gain a little momentum again, and then they would blow again, and this sort of thing went on. There was real fireworks. And you'd slide back so far, and then you'd go ahead. And, in the early days, in 1910, when Frank Ingram was up on the first run, he went up Cedar Street, and the car started to run backwards, and there was no safety switches, and it ran down to Carbon Street corner. tipped over, and he was caught underneath, and he lost a leg.
And it still went on to be superintendent for a couple of years with
He
a
stayed.
peg leg.
Yeah, he stayed from 1910 to 1924. Yeah.
Do you have any fond memories of Car 23? Any memories?
No, Car 23 came in after I had left there, actually. It was there, but it was only kept as a spare and filled in when any of the others had to be repaired, you see. And I worked there till, well, 1921, 22 were my main years. And from there I went to the post office, but...
Oh, you were postmaster.
I was postmaster.
That's right,
Well, I was 47 years in the post office, and the last 21 was postmaster. Yeah.
I see, I see.
So I got out of touch with the streetcars other than going in and visiting my dad or my brother. I used to drop in about every morning to see how things were going before I went home. I worked nights for a long I worked nights for 15 years in the post office.
To keep it going.
That's it.
I see. As a child, didn't you, you were telling me once that you'd gone up to, you'd go out late at night and help your dad get a streetcar back on the track?
Yeah, yeah. So that was a pretty miserable job because you had to lay in the mud, you know, and snow. And it had to get back on with its own power. There was they didn't have any cranes or anything to pull it with, so they had to try and get it on, lift the wheels back on the rails that way.
Pull it back on.
And the Les and him, we used to come home half frozen to death, you know. No thanks, because everybody complained the streetcar wasn't on time.
Could you tell me a bit about, well, the system closed in 1949.
49, yeah.
And what's Les's participation at that time? He was trying to extend the streetcar system.
Well, yes, the public apparently in all their voting was in favor of streetcars or trolley buses, but it eventually turned into gas buses. And
he went out to Calgary and...
Yes, he went down east to tried out various trolley buses to get the latest information on them and see how they'd work locally. But the gas buses got the first chance at it and took over from there.
That's the interior
stages
of trail.
They tried it out, yeah.
Right. And
They lasted a short time, and then others took over.
Yeah, the BC electric buses.
Yeah.
Right, right. Well, I want to thank you very much for coming down today. You've got a lot of things, a lot of stories, which to fill in your family involvement.
Yeah, there's a lot of. I like talking about it because it brings back memories I'd forgotten. So,
Keeps your mind clear.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, well, I want to thank you very much for coming down.
You're quite welcome. The Silver King mine, which was discovered in 1886, was the beginning of the building of Nelson and District. Silver King mine was on top of the mountain to the southwest of Nelson. And a tramway 4.5 miles long came down to the Hall Mine smelter, which was situated on Rosemont. That was about all there was on Rosemont at the turn of the century. From there, the city created a dam on Cottonwood Creek, just at the foot of Hoover Street, and this was to back up water to create a power source for the little hydroelectric plant, which was down here on the lower level. The penstock ran down here. These have also disappeared. The dam is gone and the power plant is gone. The West Kootenai Power and Light had built a substation here at the foot of Latimer Street, and that was to convey power to the street railway system. That burnt down. Along here on Hall Mines Road was the second skating rink, the last one before the Civic Center was built. The first skating rink was up on Houston and Stanley Street. Next door to the skating rink was an old brewery. I think it was maybe the second brewery in Nelson. The last brewery to operate was on Latimer Street. and it also is closed. The car barns were built on Hall Mines Road and the site of the present tip-top service. There was 2 tracks in the car barn to store the 2 cars and number 23 and the sweeper. I'll take you now on a trip around the circuit from the car barn on the streetcar. They'd leave the car barn and go up to Kootenai Street, and Kootenai Street was the first part of the railway system that was built in 1899. And the grade was too heavy there. And the first streetcar in December 23rd, 1899, on its trial run with a crew on it, came down here and ran away and jumped the corner on Hall Mines Road and pinned the motorman underneath, and he lost an arm. They finally took up the track on top of Kootenai Street, moved it to Stanley Street, and that stayed as a permanent section. When the car left the car barn, it went up here onto Kootenai, down here to Hall Mines Road, along there a block to Stanley Street, down Stanley Street to Baker, and from along Baker to Ward and Josephine. That's the Wood Balance Hardware corner. Then down a block, along past the post office and the city hall, where it turned and went down 1 block to Front Street. Along Front Street, down past Hall, which was this entrance to the city wharf where the paddle wheelers came in. Along here, there's the recreation grounds. There was a passing track here so that the car up on the hill section and the one from Fairview could pass. If one got there before the other, they waited. Then from there, the car continued on down along Front Street, down to Anderson. And this was sort of a peculiar place here. There's a very small triangle, and there was a house built right there on the corner. And they had to cut half the house off to make way for the street railway to go past. And it went on along through here and up Benson Street to Nelson Avenue, down Nelson Avenue, straight down through to the park and the shipbuilding yards, which were over on this end on the waterfront. And that's where they built the paddle wheelers. The streetcar there the first 2 streetcars, 21, 22, they were able to reverse. They didn't need a loop. But when 23 came, it was a one-ended car, so they had to build a loop around here, and they'd turn around there and start back on this circuit. This particular little branch here was built earlier than the present system.
Sand I had, sand in the hill, but it didn't do any good. In fact, I think we were traveling too fast for the sand to hit the rail. And so then we were starting to roll along pretty good. You know, you get 22 tons behind you on a greasy rail. You're moving quite along, you know. And so, well, of course, the time went so fast that I was down to Baker Street before I knew where it was. It was awful. Oh. But the front truck turned around onto Baker Street, but the back truck came off the rails and swung right round and hit the bank that I was playing for. And it hit a light stand that was outside there, knocked it over, you see. And there's a light stand that hit the bank. Yeah. And so I found myself on the floor with my feet on the controller, right. You know, and I tried to pick myself up, and I looked around through my mirror and I saw my conductor, Scotty McCandless, he's a wonderful fellow as a partner. And he was just picking himself up between the hours, I think. And he came up to me and said, "Hey, how you? Are you all right?" I said, "Yeah, sure. How are you?" "Oh," he said, "I'm all right." And so I got off and phoned the substation to advise them where the accident was, you know. And then I phoned the superintendent, Mr. Hall, and let him know about it. And then, in the meantime, it's surprising there was nobody around when we got there, but gee, in a few minutes or so, all the people there. I never heard any sound of anything, but it was amazing. But Scotty got the passengers off okay, you know, and there was a Mrs. Parks, was quite an elderly woman, but he got off. And she said she wasn't hurt. She was just surprised. and Mrs. Cartwright had Mrs. Shorthouse had a little girl with her, and he got them ashore, right? There was two of the other fellows, I believe it was on. I didn't notice them, but there's a strange story came out about it. The window was open where the little girl was, and if we were coming down at that rate of speed, and she fell off out of the window, I can't see why she was able to pick up and wasn't hurt.
Yeah, they say that she had a concussion.
Well, probably so, but I don't know. I didn't hear about it. It just seemed strange to me. You're dropping about 8 feet on the going that speed onto cement sidewalk or a road or wherever.
She wasn't severely injured.
Anyway,
yeah.
she wasn't hurt very much anyway. Everything carried on all right. And then, it wasn't very long before Mr. Tibbs, the mayor, came down, and he was quite interested in how Scott and I was feeling that day. We told him we were okay, we wasn't hurt. He insisted we go to the hospital and get a checkup. I said, "Yeah, we don't have to go up there, we were all right." No, I said, "You better go up." So we had to walk up to the hospital there. Got the nurse on duty there. She looked us over, you know, and said, "Well, I don't see anything wrong. There's no bones broken." "Oh, no, nothing like that." And so she released us, you see. So we went back to the car. And in the meantime, the electrical crew had started working on it then. Quite a thing, you know, the whole, the wires were down for quite a distance, you know, and the trolley pole was down on the ground. It broke right off and dropped onto the floor. So,
How different was the accident in 1942 from the accident that occurred in 1945?
Because the car acted differently than it just went the head-in truck went right off it, and went right down, right down into
Front Street.
Yeah.
Into Hood's Bakery.
Right. Yes.
That's right.
Stopped at the bakery there, and so he was going quite a speed when he came down.
No brakes.
Yes, and the front truck going straight ahead. It's nothing, no obstruction at all.
Oh, I see.
But in my case here, when it turned round and we was looking up Baker Street, but when the back end broke away and turned round there, the pulled us over too, see, and we were looking more or less up Stanley Street by that time, see.
What I was just wondering whether you had any recollections of Car 23 during your time. Any, I don't know if they're good or bad or.
No, well, 23 was quite a car. It was a very quick, fast car. It was faster than the other two cars. You had to be right on the bit when she was like coming down in the street. You know, there's quite a dip there, and you had to be right ready with the bridge there to say the brakes were going.
It could only go one way too.
Yes, that was why we didn't like 23, because it didn't have any back sanders. You see, if she was going up Cedar Street and she happened to start backing down, you were helpless. You had nothing at the back there to sand it with. You see, and then they put that D-rail in there after those early accidents. The D-rail was put in around Mill Street and what now. And of course, twice I ran right into that D-rail there because she started to go back, and I didn't worry because I knew that was the D-rail was there. You see. But, it's kind of gives you kind of turn, just to say when you're in the restart.
How did you feel when in 1949 they closed down the system? Sure, you were sort of a little...
Well, I was quite sorry in a way, you know, because it was our job and that there, and the streetcars were kind of a favourite of the people. You know. Everybody liked the old streetcar, and well, there was one time at the New Year's Day hockey game. 12 comes over here every year for New Year's Day game. Even now they do too, you see. And well, I was waiting on Vernon Street for the passengers who were going to go up the hill, and the other car was waiting just on a little further along there was for those that were going to Fairview, you see. And well, they started coming along. There was quite a bunch coming up there, and there's a fellow, I don't know who he was, he said, I'll count them as they come in. So he started counting, you know, and at the time there was quite a crowd coming all in together. It was a cold night, and they were glad to get into the front to the heat of the streetcar. And he claimed it was 113 on board when we went up the hill. Well, I was pushed right up to the control, and that's all I could hand over to that. And the conductor was, Scotty McKenna, was pushed right at the back. He couldn't move either. So anybody wanted to get off, he had to get somebody to pull the bell, because he couldn't get anywhere near it. It was quite a trip. But of course, nobody worried about it. Nelson won the game, that was the main thing. But it was quite a time.
You were telling me once about during Halloween, they had a great time of playing pranks on the system.
The most junior high school boys were right there. They get some nicely started, and they put it off again. It took me 20 minutes more going around the hill. Our scheduled time from Baker Street around the hill and back again was 20 minutes. See, if you had 20, 30 people on board, you had quite a job of keeping on that schedule, see. But they were mostly going off up the hill, see, and we was able to pick up a bit. But even right on Baker Street, they pulled the trolley. Right. Scotty had quite a time. He'd just get back in and he'd give me a bill to go ahead, and it'd come off again.
That's very good.
10 minutes to go, two blocks, you see.
Oh, wow.
Then when we got up the hill there, around Cedar Street, we found some obstructions all along there, where the outhouses all been put on the track. Of course, we had to get out and move in.
I see.
And by the time we next week come around, they were right back on the track again.
Oh, I see.
it was all fun today. It took all in the fun, you know. And it generally eased up about 10 o'clock at night. See. From 6 to 10 was the show time for them. But they were very good. There were students in those days there. Halloween was the only night that they pulled on any tricks or games or anything like that. All through the year was never trouble at all.
Well, I want to thank you, Wilf, for sorry, Dave. I'm sorry, for coming and discussing some of the old times that you had with the system.
You're welcome. Very glad to do it.
Okay.